YCL family? This is your main commissioner for the YCL. I'm Incog, and I'm joined here always with my partner in crime, Mac.
Hello.
And we're going to go ahead and give you our power rankings for the YCL main league season. Was it 6?
6 sounds right.
Yeah. So we have 16 coaches. You might notice on screen that I have a Google Drive little doc here, but we split them off into each category from bottom to top. We're gonna go from bottom to top talking about the teams. You'll be able to see the teams on screen, so make sure for anybody who's just audio listening, we'll say them as well, just, you know, inclusivity. But regardless of that, check out all the coaches down below, everybody, and let's get right into these rankings. Pat, you and I, we got to watch this draft because it went by not super slow, but it went by pretty nicely. And honestly, I think a lot of these teams definitely are looking kind of fierce, some of them more than others.
Oh, for sure. There's yeah. Well, we had a little more flexibility in YCL than we have in previous seasons. We did 9 to 11 Pokemon rather than in previous seasons where we've done 11. So coaches had a lot more flexibility in terms of how they use their points, how many Pokemons they drafted, all that kind of stuff, which is pretty cool.
Yep, because I am a fun commissioner, apparently. So with that being said, guys, like I said, check out all the coaches down below. We'll have all their links there, if applicable, because, you know, this is upload, so they need to upload, of course. So with that being said, let's start from bottom to top. First team off the board, unfortunately, is the Pectonica Fire Squirrels and their coach, Shelby. Now, just because any team is ranked where they are does not mean they're going to stay that way. I want to caution you here before anyone yells at me about why is my team this low or why is the team over me. This is just our surface level evaluation. We didn't do any math. We didn't do any arithmetic. We just said, hey, look at this team and its group of Pokemon. Let's go from there. We might speed through these a little bit because there's not too much to say about each team. When we get to the higher end teams, maybe not, we'll see. But Pectonica Fire Squirrels, coached by Shelby. This is the draft order, by the way. And I'm showing you guys this mostly because some teams have changed a little bit, which we'll talk about later, but you guys get it. Regardless, Pectonica Fire Squirrels. They have, in speed order, Jolteon, Hawlucha, Entei, Ninetales, Leafeon, Zygarde, Togekiss, Azumarill, Dragalge, Shellos, and Bronzong. Now, Pat, tell the people why this team is at where it's at.
I think my thought process behind why I personally have it rated a little low is I think they have a lot of type overlap, which kind of leads to like defensive problem overlap. So like both of our fairy types, like aside from being weak to poison, are also weak to electric. We have like double dragon types that are like both weak to ice. Even like our fairy type, one of those, like Togekiss, is weak to ice. So like there's just a lot of type overlap here. There's not a whole lot in terms of protection for them. They have some cool options, I think, in terms of like a kind of very, very low tier weather mode with Ninetales and Leafeon. And then like the Hawlucha kind of feels a little off to me. The Shellos feels off to me. Like, okay, here's the thing about the Shellos. I'm gonna be watching Shelby's content because I want to see how she uses the Shellos. Like, if this Pokemon pops off, like, and proves me wrong, like, I don't know. Like, please, please do that, because 1 point Shellos, like, I've never even thought of drafting it, heard of anyone drafting it, nothing like that. So, yeah. I don't know. I think there's other options in 1 point tier that like can give you some modes, and I just don't know what Shellos is doing for us.
Yeah, Shellos is a bit of an odd Pokemon in my opinion, maybe just as a water absorber, I guess, but like at the same time, there must have been something else down there that you could have picked. But I agree with Pat's points. But moving on to the next team here, unfortunately, I'm always going to say unfortunately about every team. Don't worry, that's, you know, down here. We have the Atlanta Town Flames and their coach, Talent Master Jay. Now, listen, Jay's my boy. Jay's everybody's boy. Jay's the boy. That's the homie right there, man. But drafted an interesting team. I'm not going to lie to you. Garchomp, Landorus, Jiracho, Haunter, Silvally, Hitmonlee, Milotic, Incineroar, Cradily, and Glastrier. So, Garchomp, Landorus, both weak to ice. You have a bunch of good ice resist mons in Milo, Incineroar, and Jirachi. Then you have Silvally, which can be any type it really wants to be. Then everything kind of went kaput, in my opinion. Haunter as your ghost is an interesting decision. I don't think I agree with it. It's fast, sure, but it's not the fastest Pokemon, and I don't really like it on this team, preferably. Hitmonlee without any like terrain or any like anything crazy going for it to really proc its Unburden is going to be an interesting tale of Joe using White Herb for Curse and Close Combat sets, or even like Normal Gem Fake Out or something crazy. All I know is that I'm not too big on this Pokemon being here, but that's just me personally. I think that it's fine, but on this team, not really. Cradily and Glacier rounded out, and Cradily fine as a grass rock type, but it's also weak to ice yet again. And Glacier, listen, I know a lot of people love this Pokemon. I just wish it was a different type, and that's really it. Or even a dual type, something else besides ice. It's super slow. Joe doesn't have a trick remote unless he really wants to run it on Jirachi, so it's not going to get crazy usage unless somebody decides, damn, I'm not going to kill it, because it has 100 HP, 130 defense, and 110 SPDF, but you never know. I think it's realistically down here because when you look at it in comparison to the other teams, I see a lot of teams running through this team pretty easily, especially with momentum. And in general, being able to predict that somebody's going to come in against an ice move is very, very easy when you have 3 Pokemon that could possibly come in, and 2 of those share a weakness, and Incineroar and Jirachi sharing a ground weakness. And yeah, I mean, this team is just, you know, maybe it'll do better than we think, but right now, I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. So, next up on our list of teams is, unfortunately, the McChesney Park Slowpokes. I'm not gonna lie, this team, I don't think it should really be crazy low, but it's a lot of Pokemon that you don't see usually used, so that's mostly why we have it down here. But talk to the people, Pat. Why else do we have it down here?
I think here it's, I think my maybe uncertainty about it is, I don't know if I have a lot of faith in a lot of these particular Pokemon. Like you'd mentioned, they aren't used particularly often. Some of the like lower tier ones, like if you look past Necrozma and Celesteela as these like really like good, don't get me wrong, like very good, like maybe like Meteor Beam setup sweeper kind of sets or something along those lines. You kind of look at some of the lower tier ones and they just aren't used very often. I think that like there's a reason that they tend to be lower tiered. So I don't know, they just don't excite me, I think, in the same way. There's a little bit of momentum here. There's a little bit of cool hazard stuff going on, but I think looking at like kind of the full setup of the team, I think that there's like some potential holes that could be kind of dealt with. Like the ice resist, the only thing right there is the Araquanid. So like if you start talking Pokemon specific matchup, then like Kyurem looks really pretty strong against this team. Just being able to just go Specs Freeze Dry kind of idea. So I don't know. There's just a handful of things about the team that like it seems a bit off. I don't know exactly how it's gonna work, but I also know that like a Praetor in general is fairly, I would say, unpredictable in some of the builds and things that he does. So I'm hoping he's able to make use of some of these Pokemon that we just don't see very often.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Right there, he is very unpredictable. Believe me, I know. He Reggie Drago'd me. Regardless of that fact, yeah, it was not. That was the first time we fought, first time we ever interacted, actually. Good times. Next up, we have the last of the 4 teams that are down here, unfortunately, the Trash Town Thievals and Bishmi. Now, Bishmi has a pretty interesting team, I'm not gonna lie to you, but is it better than these other teams? No, I don't think so. Maybe a little bit, no. Bishmi has Bolton, Azelf, Kyurem, Deciduous Eyeball, Corviknight, Centiskorch, Tyranitar, Beware, Weezingailer, Wartortle, and Gastrodon. Now, I like Kyurem. As we've discussed, Kyurem is a very nice sweeper and can definitely mess up a lot of teams. I also enjoy Tyranitar, as most people know. I am the local Tyranitar enjoyer and the local Corviknight stand. So really good Pokemon right there. I think that this team has good speed tiers, at least, well, it had good speed tiers, and then it gets, from Kyurem to Decidueye is a crazy drop. I think you need an 80 there. And then everything else is kind of bunched up there, 70, 67, 65, 61, 60, 60, 58, and 39. So the speed tiers are not the greatest. A lot of the lower tier Pokemon like Beware, Centiskorch, Decidueye, Bolton, Wartortle, even Gastrodon to some people, like they're good, but like I feel like his top tiers are just good enough, and then his low tiers are not like great backbone support for his team, I guess you could say. Like, I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot of weeks where maybe we won't, but I feel like we're going to see a lot of weeks where you obviously know that the end game setup is for Kyurem or Azel to clean up, and he needs Tyranitar or something else to break, and he might not have that extra Pokemon to actually break because Corviknight's going to be sliding to a defensive position, or Scorch and Weezing might be defensive those games, and Gastrodon might be as well. He might have to start abusing the hell out of Boltun's usage, but it might not work for him. We just don't know. But with that being said, I mean, Bishmiso is a really nice team in my opinion. I just think it's going to be very interesting to watch. How do you feel, Pat?
Yeah, I kind of agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think the team has like some very clear defensive options, and if you can prep for those very clear defensive options and beat them, then it becomes a lot easier to kind of just beat this team straight up, because you know who's going to be defensive and you know who's going to be offensive, and there's not as much versatility, I think, when I look at some of the options here.
Of course. Those are the bottom 4 teams. Let's move on to the next 4. First up in our next bracket here, we have Nashville Nido-Kings. So, Nashville is coached by SSI Braves. They have the Spectrier, Tornadus Incarnate, Ninetales Alola, Terrakion, Blaziken, Swampert, Arctozoa, Beartic, Sableye, and Melmetal. I will say, you will not see it here, but they did change up a few mons, but that is not going to affect our judgment. We're going off of the team that they had as of after drafting, excuse me. But Pat, why is this team so low?
Well, I think when I looked at this team originally, I kind of looked at the like potentially water being really good against this team. It just like it's one of the best options I think against Melmetal, and then like you look at Terrakion also, so like waters are also really good there too. So I think like that was maybe my main concern for this. There is Arctozoa and there is like Freeze Dry and Ninetales, which I think are pretty solid options. But I think that just kind of like even looking from like a type chart standpoint, there's a lot of holes. Like, can you scroll down a little bit so they can see what the type chart looks like from a weaknesses standpoint? Yeah, like look at all these holes. there's a lot of things where there's just minuses. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people to just kind of like click one button and get work done. Whereas in a lot of matchups, you want to have a team that you can't just go like, I'm just going to click Earthquake and something's going to take a lot of damage or die. And that's kind of what this team looks like in some extent, is that you're just going to click a water move and you're going to burn something. And it's going to be a hell of a time for the Nashville Nido-Kings to be able to deal with that. So I think like that's part of the reason that I would put this team a little bit lower.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Pat was talking about, because honestly, I didn't even really peep. There's a lot of holes on this team, no cap. Ground, water, and even to some extent, just in general, it feels like a lot of this team would hate to lose their items, so knockoff spam is definitely going to be crazy. But definitely a team where it's on the lower end despite looking really nice on paper. But next up on our next team list, our ranking thing here, the Victor. Oh, whoops. I might have shown you guys something else. That's okay. Maybe you weren't paying attention. The Victorville Victinis. So, Spartan. I know Spartan from playing with him in the low-tier Pokemon League, I'm pretty sure. And, you know, nice little team here. Nice little hodgepodge of Pokemon. He has Noivern, Volcarona, Sigilyph, Toxicroak, Dorina, Lantern, Umbreon, Aegislash, Sylveon, Sedinja, and Stakataka. I'm just going to say it. I don't know how Aegislash got to him. I think he was like 4th or 5th, maybe. But, yeah, I think he was a little bit lower than that. But still, how did it get here? Like, Aegislash is a nice Pokemon at 10 points, no cap. But maybe that's just me. I think this Pokemon has this team has a lot of nice Pokemon that are, you know, a combination of things, right? You got your Steel, you got your Fairy, you got, you know, hazard removal, you got some setup sweepers, you got a little bit of everything, you got a taste of everything. But, you know, it just looks odd. You know, it's one of those teams where you're like, I don't know how well this is going to do. It's very middle of the pack-esque. Like, there's I forget how many weeks. I think 9, 8 weeks, Avery. Man, I should know this off the top of my head. Regardless, a few weeks, 8 or 9 weeks. It's definitely going to be looking middle of the package probably by week 7, week 6, you know what I mean? And it's going to take a lot for him to be a boom or bust type of team. However, I do like a lot of his pieces. Y'all know I'm a sucker for Umbreon and Sylveon, and definitely a sucker for like Noivern and Volcarona, and definitely Sigilyph. But my favoritism aside, that doesn't mean that this team is automatically better just because I like a lot of Mons. I do think we may see some Stakataka shenanigans because a lot of people definitely underrate Stakataka's usefulness and definitely how good it can be when it can set up its own Trick Room because of how high its defenses are. But you never know. Spartan could definitely surprise us. A lot of good Pokemon. He's not missing too many typings as far as I can tell. I think he's just missing like a ground type, I believe. Yeah, ground type, which definitely would be a little bit helpful. But I mean, he has other things that can resist ground, obviously, so it's not as important. But you have things like Aegislash, Lantern, Toxicroak, and definitely Stakataka. You definitely want something that is like resistant to ground, which he does have Serena, I guess. But like, you don't want your Serena taking all of that crazy amount of damage, as you guys know. But regardless of his immunities and everything else, I definitely think him being down here makes sense. But how do you feel, Pat?
I think this is one of those teams that like kind of gets hurt by the item clause as part of our league. There's a lot of Pokemon here that I think would run on one boots. Like Volcarona really wants them. I think Noivern kind of wants them. So it has a bit of a hard time, I think, from that standpoint. And then, I mean, if I were to give a biggest critique of this, I feel like Shed Ninja should be something else. Like it shares so many weaknesses with the rest of the team that it's not going to be put in a place where you're going to be able to just bring it in and nobody's able to touch it. Like people are going to bring ghost attacks against this team. They're going to bring fire. They're going to be flying. They're going to bring rock. Like all of those types are just from a type chart standpoint for this team, weaknesses overall. So I just don't think that Mon in particular is the right choice, I guess, for this team. So I don't know. I think that's probably the one thing that kind of stands out to me. Looking at this team is like switch that up and maybe switch up some of the like heavy duty boots Pokemon that like really want them. And I think this team could move up.
Of course. But moving on to our next team, you guys got to see a little bit of it earlier. It is, of course, one of the, I guess, new mods, really, actually. King Sosa and his Cold Summer Assassins. So, King Sosa has a very short and straight to the point team. He definitely took advantage of being able to draft 9 Pokemon. Zarudai, Lego, Mimikyu, Arcanine, Lando T, Dragonite, Blastoise, Metagross, and Charjabug. Pat, tell him what I told you, because I think we both agree about what is exactly wrong about this team.
Well, I think we were chatting about the idea that like the team feels like all breakers. Like they're all Pokemon that are gonna want to run like Choice Bandit or Choice Scarf or Specs or something like that, or be like some like crazy setup sweeper kind of idea. And it doesn't feel like there's as much well-roundedness to the team as some of maybe the other teams that we've seen. But all these Pokemon are freaking scary, right? Like you have to deal with all of these things, and it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, I think them being all bulky setup sweepers and just setup sweepers in general doesn't help, because your defensive backbone is literally like defensive choice, which you could definitely do. Rapid Spin, Flip Turn, sure. Arcanine with Intimidating, has to have boots, even though Dragonite might want them, of course. Some bulky crazy Zarude or some like crazy cursed Dragonite or some mess. I don't know. But it just feels like this team, once again, just like Victorville, middle of the pack-esque, but I think it'll definitely do better than most people are expecting, because I feel like everyone knows what these Pokemon do, but King Sosa will probably bring something that no one's expecting. I mean, I haven't seen physical Shell Smash Blastoise ever. I haven't seen Special Metagross in a long time. I also haven't seen Cursed Dragonite in a long time. Does that mean they're good when they're used? Not exactly, but hey, you could always try something. With that being said, though, we're getting to the halfway point. Bless you. We're getting to the halfway point of the video, at least halfway point of the teams, and we have the Vegas Club Jangmo. We have the Vegas Club Jangmos You probably saw a little jump cut there because I got something wrong, but they have Rabombi, Gengar, Latias, Thunderous Therian, Urshifu Rapid Strike, Darmanitan, Raboot, Claydol, Bisharp, and Amoonguss. If you're wondering what was cut out, you won't be able to see it anyway. This team's very fast. One of their slowest Pokemon, fourth slowest, Raboot. As Pat said when we were discussing this earlier, it's still above 90 speed. So like, this team's gonna be hard to beat, but it definitely has a lot of cool pieces. It's just like, damn, fuck. It's a lot of cool pieces, but it's like, is this team going to break through to the top? Maybe. Because I feel like a lot of these mods are just threatening, but this defensive backbone that you have to carry with you is Amoonguss and Latias. And I'm not gonna lie to you, Amoonguss is fine, but Latias' generation hasn't been the greatest. Most people have said and have admitted. So it's just like, I don't know if I'm in love with this team. It's really good. It just needs another like defensive piece to break through to the top.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think that there's a lot of Pokemon here that are just gonna hit really hard, right? You kind of look at some of the attacking stats on some of these mon, and it's like Darm at 140, Rapid Strike at 130, right? Thunderous T at 145, Gengar at 130, and like those are some things to prep for, right? Like you gotta be concerned about that. And a couple of those mons have momentum too, which is also really sick. Like you bring in your check to Darmanitan and the U-turn into like Rapid Strike, or the U-turn into Thunderous, and then they Volt Switch into Rapid Strike or whatever, right? Like that play pattern. Oh man, I would love that play pattern. That sounds so sick.
Yeah, this team's momentum as well as its breaking capabilities is going to be very impressive. If he can get the lead matchup right and just go from there, it's a game winner for him basically. But if he can't, it's unfortunate. Now,
yeah, this team probably falls a little bit closer to like hyper offense, more than some of the other teams I think that we've seen in the past.
Oh yeah, of course. Now we're gonna take a break here because we're at the halfway point. We'll get to the top 8 teams after this commercial break.
Ay, I walk around like that nigga. Finger on the trigger. If I want some smoke, I let that chopper eat his liver. I can't with the.
And we're back. Hello. You're probably wondering, what do you mean you're back? Well, I just split these up into 2 parts, even though they're in the same video. So, top 8 of the YCL main league, of course. So, we probably just had a little commercial break. I don't know what video I'm going to put in the middle there. Don't worry about it. You'll know when you see it. To recap, at number 9 is the Vegas Club Jang Mo's. Number 10, Cold Summer Assassins. Then afterwards, it's Victorville Victinis, Nashville Needle Kings, Crashtown Thievals, McChesney Park Slowpokes, Atlanta Town Flames, and the Pecatonica Fire Squirrels. I believe I said that right. But
I think so too.
We're getting into the top 8 teams. There's not a whole lot to go over with them for some of them, but for so the other ones there is. So at number 8, we have D-Ray and his San Diego Snugglers. So D-Ray has a very nice team, has some interesting vibes to it. He was ranked higher, allegedly, according to me. I'm alleged. But D-Ray's team fell a little bit because, just like in general, you can see it on screen. We have the Starmie, Scolipede, Electabuzz, Mew, Zapdos G, Hydreigon, Mamoswine, Audino, Blossom, Diancie, and Doublade. I think me and Pat both agreed. Blossom's not doing anything. Electabuzz is probably not doing anything. And like, as much as D-Ray would like Doublade to do something, I feel like it's probably not doing much. And you're basically running like Starmie, Scolipede, Mew, Zapdos, Hydreigon, Mamo, and then Audino and Diancie in like rotation with something else. Like, it's a good team for what he has, no doubt. But on the other hand, despite what he has, it's not like it's going to be the craziest team in the world, at least in my opinion. But
yeah,
you know,
yeah, I think along the same lines, those picks kind of like the Electabuzz Blossom kind of like filled in the type chart a little bit for him, but I don't know. I look at this team and I don't think I'm prepping for those ones. I'm prepping for the rest of the stuff. But yeah, just kind of like felt like wasted slots.
You know, I just feel like you could have gotten a 3-point mod maybe in that position, I guess. And even like Doublade will probably, like Doublade's probably the best 4-point he probably could have gotten at that time. But still just feels like the Buzz and Blossom kind of wasted slots, because like when we're judging teams, we want to talk about teams that don't have like any like crazy amount of holes, and this team didn't at first when he was drafting it. Obviously, I think he wanted Klefki on this team, hence why he went with what he went with afterwards, because he couldn't get it. He got like Audino, like Diancie and Doublade, but like still, I don't know. I just feel like this team is definitely going to be a good team. Definitely going to be good ranking wise, excuse me, but just not it for those two picks. But hey, you're number 8. Now we move on to number 7. At 7, we have Team Tempest, and I believe this is coached by Kiwi. So let's go ahead and talk about Kiwi's team. He has Aerodactyl, Sceptile, Latios, Tauros, Galvantula, Drapion, Tapu Fini, Heatran, Golurk, Conkeldurr, and Avalugg. And when we were discussing this versus DRA's team, I think we both agreed that this team had no real like holes to it, right, Pat?
Yeah, I think originally we had them swapped, and after a little bit of conversation, just kind of looked at this like, you kind of have to prep for every mon here. Like, there's nothing here that like you just kind of look at and go, I'm not worried about that Pokemon at all. Even some of the Pokemon that maybe don't hit quite as hard, like Galvantula doesn't quite hit as hard. It's still fast. It's still sticky web, right? You gotta be able to deal with that, especially when we're talking about a league where you can't run heavy duty boots on, say, like your grounded Pokemon that's not weak to rocks. You know, you kind of need it on something else that's going to be weak to rocks, because this team has rock setters too, like for sure, several of them. So like the sticky webs I think are going to be really nice for this team. And then you just look at everything else, like there's the Unburden mode, there's like Dragon Dance Aerodactyl, like Latios is just nuts, of course, Calm Mind, Iron Defense Tapu Fini potentially, like hard-hitting Conkeldurr. I don't know, I like the team overall. I think it's got a lot of really strong options, and it doesn't really feel like there's a super weak link to it, which is nice. It's really nice.
Of course, and I definitely like Avalugg on this team. You know, you never know when you need a spinner that you may or may not use, but Avalugg definitely, I just like that Pokemon a lot for no reason. Just a cool little guy. But everything else is really good. I definitely agree with Pat's points. I definitely like the speed on this team. I definitely like how the speed tiers are kind of broken down. I might get a 60 instead of a 55, but that's just me personally, honestly. But hey, I still like this team, and someone's going to get very upset by Golurk messing up their team. So that's definitely going to be something. But number 6 on our list is the Sydney Staraptors and one of our other mods, Luke Harry. And let me tell you, Luke Harry, man, he's a good guy. Let me tell you, he definitely got some stuff organized for us in there, and I was like, damn, thank you, because I sure as hell was lacking for a little bit. But Sydney Staraptors, Harry, he has Zygarde 10% Milk, Comfey, Victini, Rillaboom, Mandibuzz, Toxtricity, Cloyster, Scizor, Licky, and Cursula. This team overall looks good as shit. Like, it's well balanced. It has, you know, great defensive options. It has great offensive options. Cursula, me and Pat really love that Pokemon. You know, it's really good here. Even like, you're trying to identify like a weak spot in this team. Arguably, you would say like, if he makes the wrong kind of pivot, I guess, then he's in a lot of trouble. But he has such a good defensive backbone that this team shouldn't falter to too much. And that's very important to note. Like, I guess you could say like Ice, but then it's like, oh, he has a Cloyster and he has a Victini. And then, you know, Licky's a bulky son of a gun. You know, there's a lot of things that like you could point out, but then you can also point out what beats those and what checks those types. And I definitely like this team a lot. I like the speed tiers. I'm really enjoying a lot of the mons on this team. Definitely some classic hitters like Scizor and Cloyster. Rillaboom, despite what many might say, is definitely still a really good Pokemon. And Victini's always great. I like the Zygarde 10% at that 115 speed tier because it's definitely really, really nice to have, especially as a really good like cleaner or even just like a breaker just to let in other Pokemon clean up for it, like Cloyster or Scizor or even Toxtricity at that point. Great defensive options in the same Scizor, the Licky, and the Mandibuzz, and even Comfey if it's a Calm Mind set, if it's a Calm Mind Sweeper, or even just Calm Mind in general definitely helps. And then Cursula with his Spadef, don't sleep. Good Pokemon right there.
Yeah, definitely. I think my biggest maybe like a weakness I would say for this team is actually their hazard setter. I think the only stealth rocks they have on the team is Cursula, and I think you want to have a stronger stealth rock setter than Cursula in a league that only allows one heavy duty boots on a team. But that's it. Like that's kind of the thing I look at this team and go like, if we could get something that is a more reliable stealth rock setter, then we could take advantage of teams that have like some of those rock weaknesses that we've seen in other teams when they only get to bring one set of heavy duty boots.
Yeah, of course. I definitely agree with that now looking at the team again. But, you know, that's just a small thing that happens. You know, you don't always get everything right on your team.
Oh, for sure. And like you can honestly just, if you think you have a really good matchup or like where rocks are just so impactful, then like you just bring Cursula with rocks. Like that's I don't think that's that big a deal, but it's just not as reliable as say like a Bronzong or some other Pokemon like that.
Yeah, for sure. But moving on, we have our controversial 5 and 4. So at first the 5th slot was to another team, and now it's to this team. Our boy, the guy that we help a lot with team building and stuff. Person I invited because you know what, we need another guy, we need another person because someone else had to drop. Our homie Nathaniel O'Shaniel Mathis Oceaniqua and his Montreal Milotics. Let me tell you something. All right, I'm embarrassed his name right now, bro. Oh God. All right, Montavious Green Jr. and his Montreal Milotics. All right, let's talk about it, bro. Let's get real serious though. Yes, we helped him. Well, I didn't particularly help him, but everyone else seemed to help him draft this team, and there's still some iffy things about it. But let's talk about the great things about it. So he's the Tornadus Therian, Blacephalon, Thievul, Excadrill, Camo, Klefki, Vaporeon, and Vikavolt, and Slowking Galar. Pat, I know you was in that room, in that war room, helping him draft this. Tell me, what was he cooking?
I mean the regenerator core, like that's really how this started. So Tornadus and Glowking, and just kind of good mons to help break from there. Excadrill I thought was a really cool pick. I like the Como pick. The Blacephalon I think is really nice. I think probably the 4 that I like the most on this team are of course the regenerator core, and then Como and Excadrill. I kind of think the team supports a Como really nicely here, and I think it's important to note for this that this is Clangor of Souls, so we do have the Omni boosting Como here, and then we also have these 2 Pokemon, Glowking and Excadrill, that do just a fantastic job at dealing with the fairy types that are going to try to come to deal with Como. Between that steel coverage and that poison coverage, just seems amazing. So I think that I think if I were to look at this team, it feels like a break around Como kind of team, and I think that's really nice. And then there's Blacephalon, and like, how are you going to deal with all this offense, as well as all of the different kind of defensive and pivot options that he has? So I like the team overall.
Yeah, I definitely like the team too. I guess it's just more so like the thing that stands out to me is like the dark type of Stevel. Obviously, we discussed this with Matt himself because we were helping him draft or whatever have you. But it was more like it wasn't great as a dark type, but he had to fill some sort of niche with that one pointer, and I guess it was the best 1-point dark type that he could look for. And also, like, if Matt had more points, I feel like he would have been another piece for this team. Like, I don't know, like maybe like a fire type. Oh no, he already has a fire. What am I saying? What was it? It was a grass type. A grass type would have been lit. Would have been completely great for him here. But there wasn't a lot of good 1-point grasses, and if he had more points, maybe that would have helped. I guess also, like, I don't know. There's not really much else to say about this team. It's really good, but it definitely can come off as underwhelming, if you know what I mean. It's not better than the top 4 teams, though. Let's get right into that, bro. Because, I mean, we could talk all day about Matt's team if we really wanted to. We're not going to. None of that. No favoritism. So, top 4 teams in the YCL. First and foremost, this team was number 5 at first, but we got it to number 4 because we definitely said, hey, this team looks a lot better. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone else in between, we have Pokebaldi and his Dundee Darmanitans. Pokebaldi decided to draft a very nice team. I love all of these mons, bro. Tapu Koko, Cobalion, Darmg, Rotom Mo, Nidoqueen, Porygon 2, Marowak Alola, Guzzlord, and Slowbro. Now listen, bro, listen. Trick Room looks hella good with Guzzlord and Slowbro being able to abuse it, and like Marowak being able to abuse it, and Porygon 2 if you want to run offensively. And then he has some great demons at the top, bro. I mean, Coco, excuse me, Jesus, Cobalion, Darm, Rotom, Nidoqueen. But Pat, tell us a little bit more, because I feel like I know why I like this team. Why do you like this team?
I mean, can I just repeat everything that you just said? Because it looks kind of sick. There's a lot of really powerful breakers on this team. We have physical and special. Like every Pokemon on this team, like we talked about the idea of you want to make sure that you have a team where every Pokemon feels like it needs to be prepped for. This team feels like that. Like you need to be able to handle all these different Pokemon. I think maybe like one weakness you could potentially say about the team is that it's a bit weak to ground, right? Like there's only the Rotom Mo as maybe like a ground switch in. But you have ground breakers, like you have things that break grounds for sure, like Darmg. We have Slowbro that I think can kind of switch into it and deal with it with those water type moves. And then like Rotom Mo I think is a reasonable switch into ground types, as well as we have that grass type coverage to be able to deal with them. But like, yeah, this team is sweet. Like I fully expect there to be like a little Marowak sweep with this team. I fully expect to see like some fast mode with Tapu Koko being able to just win the game with your like Calm Mind kind of setup. So like the team I think is really, really strong overall. It's pretty sweet.
And genuinely here, I just think the other weakness that you could also point out, I suppose, is this knockoff week. I think a lot of these mons value their items a lot. Definitely Porygon 2 definitely does, and Marowak Alola certainly does.
Sure.
And you definitely go week to week deciding what items everything's going to have. I definitely think that Boots is definitely going to be one of those weird ones where it's like, damn, who do I want to give Boots to this time? Whether it's Slowbro, Rotom Mo, or even like Coco, depending on the matchup. I like the hazards. I like the team overall. Has a great defensive backbone. Definitely has good Pokemon that can offensively pressure a lot of teams. And for sure, I think Pokebaldi, or just by his first name, Rory, did a really good job of drafting this team. But next up, number 3. Now, I have been known to not say this team name correct. And I think it's Athabasca Miltanks?
Yep, I think so too.
Hey, Athabasca. So this is, I believe Abomination. Yeah, Abomination, there it is. Abomination here. Look at this guy. He has a really nice team. And I think that this team is fucking phenomenal. Good lord. Weavile, Espeon, Miltank, Roserade, Rotom Heat, Dracozolt, Slurpuff, Skarmory, Hippowdon, and Quagsire. With that Sandcore in tow, with the offensive pressure that comes from Weavile and Miltank being able to get up rocks and be a really good fire and ice resist technically, so it definitely helps out with Dracozolt and Hippowdon needing to take ice hits. But he also has the Rotom Heat, which is very nice as well. He has T-Spikes out of the Roserade. He has Espeon, which could definitely be a very nice psychic type for this team. He has the Webs in Slurpuff, and definitely a Sweeper in Slurpuff as well. He has Skarmory with great hazards, and he has the Quagsire in case he has to try and stop anybody's momentum from going through his team. I think Abomination definitely did a great job drafting this team. I think that the speed tiers are great. I think that the hazards are also phenomenal. And I definitely think that even if he doesn't bring sand one week, this team is still quite hard to deal with hazard stacking, with in general just having to deal with Weavile and Espeon, because while Espeon is not the craziest Pokemon in the world to some, to me, it's one of those Pokemon you still have to look out for per week. And even then, Miltank's definitely going to be one of those Pokemon you look out per week, because I know a lot of people like to bring this kind of like bulkier Miltank, but still at 80 attack and 100 speed, this Pokemon still does a lot of good work. And in general, I think that this team is definitely balanced. I guess one issue that this team would definitely run into, I would say more often than not, is just in general, I guess once again, that whole entire item clause thing, which I think a lot of teams deal with. And like, it's not crazy bad, but like Rotom Heat and Weavile might both prefer to have boots, but if Weavile's coming in first, it likely doesn't have boots and probably be like choice or something else. And it's important for Abomination to probably get that in a lot of the time. Otherwise, I think that this team is definitely going to be great. I definitely think it's not going to have too many issues, and it just needs to play, week to week, making sure that you keep up aggressive plays, especially because you have Sand and then also Weavile. But Pat, anything else that I missed?
Nah, I think that's great. I will say one thing about this is that if you really, really like to see Miltank do well, like go check out Abomination's channel. Like he absolutely loves Miltank. So yeah, if you're a big Miltank fan, this is definitely the dude to watch. He loves that Pokemon.
Yep. And it might say 1 in 9 on season 3, but believe me, Abomination's really freaking good.
Yeah, I think he won one of our other side leagues, maybe the Wi-Fi non-upload league or the Showdown league, maybe something like that.
Yep.
So yeah.
But we're on to the top 2 teams. You haven't seen 2 teams like these before. First and foremost, I want to thank you guys for watching so far, and we're almost through it. Don't worry. This is hella worth it. I keep saying that word because Pat has gotten me on that word like a real Californian, I guess.
Hell yeah.
But number 2 overall is Bruno's team, the Chernobyl Dragalges. Let me tell you something. This team is dangerous. Dangerously good. All right. Bruno has good speed tiers. I would like a 70. I like a 70 somewhere. But Bruno, y'all already know. Bruno is one of our champs, and one person that definitely has a lot of respect from everybody, but he has this team that I think is definitely just harder to prep for than I've ever imagined, because he is such good offense. But Pat, tell him about this team, bro. Tell him about this team.
Nah, I mean, you hit it on nail on the head, right? Like, there's just really, really good offensive options here. I think Keldeo and Chandelure help each other out really nicely, like Psychics and maybe Grasses that Keldeo doesn't want to deal with. You have Chandelure to hit those. So like that combination right there is really nice. You have just, I mean, I guess Zeraora is not technically the fastest Pokemon, but it's pretty close, right? And so you have speed at all times. Crobat is hella fast too, so you obviously have that for your options. So the team just looks really nice. I think Wishy-Washy is a really sweet Pokemon. It's one of those Pokemon that like it. I don't know. I think that like some people think of it as a little underwhelming. I think it's really awesome, and it looks better in play than maybe sometimes it does on paper. Like Schooling as an ability seems like it would be a downside, but it really isn't. that Pokemon's really sweet, so I think he found a really nice option in the 2-point tier with that. And then just like really nice options with Clefable, being able to support the team out with either Rocks, Pivot, setup sweeping. Like some of these Pokemon that can be defensive can also be offensive, which is also kind of sick. So yeah, I like the team overall. I think he's got a lot of really cool stuff going for him.
Yeah, Bruno definitely has a team they actually have to genuinely look out for. Like Zeraora is crazy. Crobat is interesting, like as just a good defogger, and also like Pat said, something that could be defensive to be offensive. Lycanroc, great breaker, great sweeper, honestly. Keldeo, same thing. Crocodile, also same thing. Chandelure, also same thing. Like a lot of this team is so a lot of its momentum is so good because you never know what's going to come in next. And even the defensive pieces in Registeel and Clefable, as Pat said, defense can turn into offense really quickly, and you don't want to deal with that. And like Maractus, while you might think we haven't talked about it, definitely still a fine Pokemon for this team, at least. Just like in general, not the greatest, but Water Absorb and Storm Drain, and definitely having that Spikes, user definitely helps, especially against some teams that don't know how to deal with Spikes very well, or they don't think about it. It's more of an afterthought to them. And while Maractus isn't like the most dangerous Pokemon, it's definitely a Pokemon you still have to look out for still, just like in general from a defensive grass standpoint, honestly. It's not the greatest, but hey, don't sleep. But I definitely like this team a lot. Has a lot of great Pokemon that I've used, has a lot of great Pokemon I've seen used on championship teams, and certainly a team that you definitely still have to be careful of. But we saved the best for last, of course. Of course. And that is Wreck-It Mike and his Virginia Victinis. Where do we even begin? And this is your tier list for everybody, or I guess power rankings list for anybody who's watching at home. You see the full thing. But Wreck-It Mike, oh my goodness. Wreck-It Mike, he had the second pick, I think. Yeah, I think he had the second pick.
That sounds right.
He said he had a high pick, I'm pretty sure, but he got
second
pulled.
pick.
You got Polt, Cinderace, Blaze, Zapdos, Obstagoon, Hitmonchan, Primarina, Mudsdale, Slowbro, Galar, and Ferrothorn. You talk about a well put together overall team. I think you're referring to this team basically. While many might think Hitmonchan is not the greatest pick for this Pokemon, I definitely think that in the 3-point tier, there's only 10 or so Pokemon that you would really want to pick. Hitmonchan is definitely up there. Gets, Rapid Spin and everything else. Is definitely a decent fighting type. But we're not talking about Hitmonchan only. This team has Polt, Cinderace, Zapdos, Primarina, 4 Pokemon that people consider to be so freaking great. You have to prioritize them in your drafts. And then also at the bottom there, Ferrothorn. Slowbro G has definitely grown on a lot of people as well. And Mudsdale has already been something that people love. But Slowbro G, man, people have started to love this guy as much as they love Glow King. But Glowbro is definitely really good as well. Outside of that, Obstagoon is definitely a really great Pokemon that definitely puts Intimidators on ice and definitely puts up a really good fight against a lot of Pokemon. And even at 95 speed, it's still a really decent Pokemon. There's not enough to say about Obstagoon, honestly, offensively. And this team defensively is also really good. I mean, you could definitely see a lot of defensive Zaps, defensive Polts if you really want to, defensive Prims, Mudsdale, Slowbro, Galar, Ferrothorn. It has great offense, great defense. And as we mentioned with with Bruno's team, this team right here definitely has the ability to go from, defense to offense really quickly. And a lot of these mons definitely like to be around each other. It has a great amount of momentum, has good hazards with Mudsdale and Ferrothorn, basically carrying this team with hazards. And then basically being able to exploit other teams with your hazards is definitely very important. But Pat, how else do you feel about this team?
Yeah, this team feels amazing. There's some really, really nice pivots on this team, some really good pivots. The amount of okay, I need to bring this Pokemon in because of Dragapult, or I need to bring a Pokemon in because of Primarina, or I need to bring a Pokemon in because of Cinderace. And then you just get U-turn, flip turn, whatever on, right? So the team looks really nice overall from that standpoint. And then there's a good, really, really nice defensive backbone between Zapdos, Ferrothorn, Glowbro, and Mudsdale. All 4 of those Pokemon are really nice defensive options. Some of the other even offensive options, I would say Primarina can be used defensively to a certain extent. And then the team has really nice options to just hit stuff. You can hit things really hard with this team. It's crazy. I really like it. It's a really solid team.
Yes, it is. And that's going to wrap it up here for me and Pat Mac here at the YCL for your power rankings. You can see them on screen right here. And for those of you who are not your audio listening and whatever else, it goes Virginia Victinis, Chernobyl Dragalges, Athabasca Miltanks, Dundee Darmanitans, Montreal Milotics, Sydney Staraptors, Team Tempest, San Diego Snugglers, Vegas Club Jangmo, Cold Summer Assassins, Victorville Victini, Nashville Needle Kings, Trashtown Thievals, McChesney Park Slowpokes, Atlanta Talonflames, and the Botanica Fire Squirrels. With that being said, all the coaches will be listed in the description down below for your convenience to go check them all out and watch their draft analysis. Some of them are uploading them on the same day this goes up, so be sure to check out those channels. And then next week, which is the 3rd, will be the start of the YCL week 1. You'll be able to watch all the battles then. Some people might upload separate team builders on the Friday before, on the 2nd, but just tune into those channels and make sure you keep up with all the coaches down below in the description. And keep up with us here. You can go ahead and subscribe to me on my channel, and you can also subscribe to Pat, because Pat's really cool and he makes a lot of nice content. He's in, in CGT, one of the best leagues out there. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you guys did like this, leave a like, comment, subscribe. And Pat, give them a question of the day. Do you have anything off top of your head?
Lowest rated top Pokemon that you would have on your team?
That's a good one. So remember, lowest rated Pokemon you have on your team. Lowest rated top Pokemon?
Yeah, low tier that you would highly rate that you'd want on your team.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, that's question of the day. This is going to be probably 50 minutes to an hour, but hey, hopefully you stayed for the entire thing. We'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.